We are not going to do our first five today, as we almost always do. Instead, we're going right to an interview. We have online MARIYA ZAK. She is in the Washington, D.C. area. She is the founder of an organization called Nations in Action, and she is going to be telling us about an affidavit delivered to Congress today on this extremely important day in America, January 6th, as the Congress is reviewing the electoral votes coming in from around the country in the midst of obvious, widespread concern about their authenticity. She is the founder of this, as I say, Nations in Action, and she's also, her organization has partnered with another group called Good Governance, the Institute of Good Governance. They together put some information coming out of Italy related to our elections. And without further ado, and this is the breaking story of the day and maybe the year, this story you're about to hear, MARIYA ZAK joins us live. Hi, Maria.
Hi, Debbie. Thank you so much for having me today.
So glad you could come on. Well, I didn't want to spoil your story at all, so I know you delivered an affidavit today in Washington to at least a couple of people in Congress and the President's Chief of Staff coming out of Italy that's relating directly to this whole issue of election fraud in America. And I want to let you just tell our listeners what it was you delivered.
Yes, ma'am. We are very thrilled to partner with the Institute for Good Governance, and Nations in Action shares the same passion for honesty and truth in elections. And so we have done substantial research over the years. I've even been on the recount teams over the years, including the 2000 recount team. And what was troubling in 2016 in the elections and 2018 with Broward County, we exposed that fraud. But never in my life did I think we would have the opportunity to see what act that we have seen in taking the election theft to a whole new level. There's so many variations and kinds of theft, but this orchestrated theft that took place in America that is breaking today, and thank you for helping us break this story, we actually know the person who actually committed the act of uploading the software, where they did it, how they did it, and that has been put into an affidavit with the top lawyer of Italy and was part of a proceeding, a judicial proceeding in a federal court in Italy in the past couple days. So news has been breaking. Italy did it is the global trending hashtag, and it is for a reason. This happened. It's very real. The president is right. Foreign interference did occur. And people need to be prosecuted in our country who actually participated. So that affidavit, as you said, was drafted and submitted to Congress at 1:12 this afternoon, as soon as we could get it over safely. There are people who have their lives at risk for wanting to save our country. They know it's that important. Many believe, like what we did as America for Italy in World War II, that it was time for them to repay saving America. And that's exactly what they did. They stepped up, amazing patriots.
So I want to be sure what our listeners are understanding this affidavit you're describing. I have it in front of me, and I may even read it at some point in the show, but the person is talking about what was uploaded was the instructions to flip votes from Trump to Biden on the evening, late evening, November 3rd, early November 4th, as the votes are being counted in the unsettled states. This person is attesting that he was the one who uploaded the instruction to a satellite owned by Leonardo, the Italian cybersecurity company, a government contractor, uploaded the instruction to change those votes in America from Trump to Biden, and that went up to a Leonardo-owned satellite, back to servers then in Germany, and ultimately back to America. So this is the proof that votes were shifted by foreign powers in our 2020 November elections. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. This person has said very precisely that he has been an employee of Leonardo SpA. And Leonardo is a very large, I believe the 11th largest defense contractor in the world. And so we need to think about that they have received over $1 billion of American taxpayer dollars during this past year. And yet they helped orchestrate, according to this gentleman, the theft of the 2020 election. This is the piece that Sidney Powell and Rudy Giuliani and everybody has been begging to have and to see, because they knew something was wrong. And I think voters in their heart knew something was wrong. But what's amazing is that they were never quite able to get that missing little piece, that little nugget of who, where, and how. And the why is certainly impossible to believe in some respects, but we must stand up for truth and do a full investigation. I know members of Congress are calling for that, but this now takes away the need for an investigation because we have the person who is admitting to the theft of the election.
You know, I was going to, you kind of jumped right to where I wanted to go, which is many of us have been watching the election results of November 2020 and just watched as during the counting of votes on election night and watched that it was very obvious to people paying attention to, especially the states that are often swing states, that Donald Trump was on track to a clear and easy victory. And maybe not easy, but a clear, solid victory in those states. And then counting stopped in many of those states. And among many things that occurred, mail-in ballots were dropped, but also it appeared data appeared to have been changed. And the next morning, who knew? It turned out Biden won all of those states. And so the questions people have been asking, everyone working on behalf of President Trump have been asking is, basically, who's the big orchestrator? I mean, there's obvious evidence of election fraud, election theft, vote fraud. Who organized it? Who did it? And how? And what you, Maria Zak, and Nations in Action are bringing forth for the members of Congress to see is this is who did it. This is a person acknowledging that he did this. He changed this data out of Italy. In fact, I have the person's affidavit, and I'll tell my listeners, if you like a copy of the affidavit, you can go to our website, americacanwetalk.org. On the homepage under shows, drop down list of links. We'll have a copy of the affidavit uploaded there later today. And what this person writing the affidavit is saying, he is describing what was acknowledged in a deposition in an Italian court, and this person who actually conducted this switching of the vote. So now, Maria, who did you give it to in Congress?
Actually, a very good man that I've known for a couple decades now, Congressman Barry Loudermilk of North Georgia, is a dear friend. I was trying to send it to Jody Heiss, who is also amazing, and I sent it over to Devin Nunes's staff, whom I have been speaking with for some time. I've also met with Louis Gohmert's staff for a long time to let them know that it was coming as well. So many of the members of Congress knew that there was a problem and that we were identifying it and still pulling together the research. We just didn't realize how much information we were going to get. And that's what's been really quite telling, because it was simply a man who has extraordinary IT experience. He's a senior software engineer at Leonardo. He is not someone new. He's not someone unknown. And there were a couple of articles that struck early in Italy right after our election. And Leonardo reacted differently, as did the country. They started firing their heads of telecommunications and cybersecurity and suddenly had people arrested. And we thought that was rather peculiar, and that helped us pull the pieces together. But this man said to his wife, I don't understand why we are interfering with America's election. And that's how it happened. That's how things started to spiral and get back to us in our research and investigations with the Institute for Good Governance. So we're very grateful for that relationship. They are an extraordinary organization, also committed to good governance that is so sorely needed in America today and in other countries. Because if we cannot have a safe election, nothing else matters. And no state legislature should allow what took place in these affidavits that are in the state legislatures, and I've reviewed many. Our team members were poll watchers across the United States, and these people are great Americans who would never lie, and they're there to make sure it's a safe and secure election. But they too witnessed that the machines were going online, and they were not supposed to be. So there was a connection from some of our poll watchers, even in Georgia, all the way back to Italy with the theft. So people knew something was very wrong.
Maria, what's your understanding, if any, about these individuals working, this individual who's acknowledged what he did, working for Leonardo? There was talk in some of the Italian media about the apparent involvement or connection in some way to individuals in the U.S. Embassy in Italy. What is your knowledge, if you have any, about whether or not U.S. officials were in some way involved in this?
Sure. We have been informed that Prime Minister Conte was very, very involved in this, and one of the senior staff at the embassy. So we are asking for a full investigation of the embassy, the State Department personnel that have been in that embassy. We want a seizure of all their equipment, their phone records. We want a full, transparent investigation to help Americans know what that involvement was. We want full prosecution. We have heard that members of our CIA were involved. I believe he's got that in his testimony. And that is quite shocking to us as taxpayers and Americans, that our own countrymen would betray our country. And we had it on good authority that the senior staff foreign officer, he retired just a day or two before the election to ensure he didn't lose his pension. So we also heard that he had great involvement with General Claudio Graziano and was often seen walking across the street to the St. Regis for meetings, and it was to help orchestrate this. General Graziano is also the head of the EU military command and is on the board of Leonardo SpA. So we have a real mess on our hands, honestly, and America must stand up and say we deserve full transparency. Conte needs to come clean. We need General Graziano to be dealt with if he had any involvement at all. And I ask that the intel community, certainly the intelligence committees of the House and Senate, immediately conduct investigations into Leonardo's activities and the findings from this affidavit.
Could not agree more. I mean, the avenues of investigation that America should undertake are enormous. But on the immediate front, we sit here on January 6th as United States Congress is going through its constitutional obligation to review the Electoral College votes coming in from states where now on many fronts, the legislatures in those states are aware that they unknowingly, in most cases, certified what they now understand to have been fraudulent elections. So don't you think it ought to be incumbent on these members of the House and Senate to find some basis to suspend the count of the electoral votes coming in? And, in my view, what I was hoping Vice President Pence would do, but he has apparently declined to do that, go back to the states where there is a question about that some of them sent in 2 sets of electoral votes. Send back this information. I mean, isn't it big enough information that those states should be afforded the opportunity to look again at the data in their states and make sure that what they're sending in about the results of their elections is consistent with the truth?
Absolutely. This is not the smoking gun. This is the actual hand attached to the smoking gun. Yeah. So we know this person did it. They're admitting to doing it, and they know that they're willing to sacrifice and risk their lives to come forward and give this information. So every state should be taking this as serious as possible. They have been duped. Those elected officials, I know in Georgia, some dear friends of mine, people I supported publicly for public office, were vehemently opposed, saying there was no fraud. Well, I've been a candidate on the ballot in Fulton County, Georgia in my past, and I can tell you fraud is rampant there. It has been existing for decades. We all know it. But this just took it to a whole new level. And because of the chaos of all the different types of of corruption. We just kind of had this lurking back noise that something wasn't right when the votes actually switched. So those states should immediately, and most of them are going into special session at the beginning of the week, they should immediately see what they can do about retracting their electors and putting the proper slate forward. I believe that Congressman Loudermilk at 5 p.m. today, in just a half an hour, will be conducting the Georgia investigation on the House floor, if they actually can regain control there in the Capitol. But we need all those states to investigate this thoroughly. It's not even an investigation at this stage. It's this happened. Now what are you going to do about it? And they don't have a choice. If they do not pull back, they are committing crimes, because this is blatant evidence and we know it happened. So my good friend Brian Kemp, I'm happy to say, has been advised of this. A few weeks back, I was able to message with him, and he has been waiting patiently for me to get the proof to him. And that's what a lot of people didn't understand. Some of our good guys actually knew more than everyone else that we were working on something big. We knew we had credibility with these members for our long years in work in this arena. So they've been trying to be judicious about what is it that we can actually prove. Well, now we were able to deliver that proof to Congress and to the legislatures.
You know, I'm actually surprised to hear you mention Governor Brian Kemp, because there was great concern that he was, at a minimum, uninterested in understanding, digging into what election fraud seemed to have occurred in Georgia. And you're now saying that Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia is aware of this, or will be aware of the actual affidavit. And so then I guess all of us ought to expect him to step forward and begin a more serious investigation of what happened in the Georgia elections, both the presidential election and actually the election that occurred yesterday for the United States Senate, where we had the apparent slim victories of both Democrats running, and obviously loss of both Republicans. I want to ask you, though, with respect to this affidavit information you've gained, are you aware of whether or not what the information that was being sent from Italy up through their satellite, the Leonardo-owned satellite, to Frankfurt, then back to America's servers, this involves the Dominion servers? Is that accurate? Dominion voting machine servers?
My understanding is it does, and that it was 17 states that were impacted. So it is not just the swing states. Now, whether or not it's Georgia specifically, and Governor Kemp asked me that question, and I think that's a very fair question. A lot of people do not understand where Governor Kemp's come from. He's been attacked mercilessly without proof to date that I have seen, and I'm very concerned when people make accusations and ratchet things up prematurely. Let's let the facts go where they should. And for Governor Kemp to be attacked because he was being judicious is really irresponsible. He's a good man. I've watched him for decades. He and I ran in a neighboring Senate district during a reapportionment, so my area overlapped with his former Senate district. And I can tell you, he's someone who is a godly man, and he will do the right thing. So as proof comes out, I have no doubt that he will look at it. He will want to investigate it. And this is a game changer. This is the proof he's wanted all along. And to say, in the past he was wrong, whatever, he actually knew more than every American. So the joke's kind of on the people who attacked him, because he knew something was in the works. So I stand proudly with Brian, because I know his heart. I know he's a good man. Do I wish he did a couple things different? Absolutely, because I'm much more aggressive in attacking things like this, and that's just a style difference. But I do know that he was conducting many hundreds of investigations through the GBI, and most people don't even know that was occurring. So I believe it's over 250 investigations, and that's for the local and statewide fraud. And our organization also found 40,000 illegal votes that occurred in Georgia, and we did press releases on that as well.
Okay, Maria, I want to go back one quick thing on Leonardo SpA, which is this enormous Italian company. You can think somewhere in the ballpark akin to Lockheed Martin. I'm not saying
Yes.
akin to them in terms of conduct of apparent wrongdoing, but just size, scope, what they're all about. there were news stories in Italy in December about the arrest of certain officials at Leonardo accused of hacking in some kind of hacking operation, alleged role in hacking the Italian defense group's computers. And I believe I read that this is now being viewed as was a cover or a pretext to keep people away from the real story. Do you know about that angle?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, Reuters actually did an article as well about the hacking and many others. And it does appear now with this evidence coming out that hack was not a hack. It was actually a protective maneuver to help cover their tracks. So many actions happened as things started to unfold and people started to run for cover.
Okay, Maria, I want to mention to our listeners also, your organization, Nations in Action, has a great press release out. And so we put it out on our website, americacanwetalk.org, on the homepage under shows, drop down list of links, but you can also go directly to the Nations in Action website, nationsinaction.org. They have a press release out giving more detail about our story today. But now I want to turn to the affidavit. And I know you've got a lot of people wanting to talk to you today, so I'm hoping we're still good. I'll keep a few more questions if you have time.
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay. So the affidavit that was submitted and now is apparently in the hands, I understand, I think, of Mark Meadows, other people in Congress. This affidavit, to be really clear, is actually spelling out very specifically undertaking the under instruction and direction, and I meant to say the U.S. person. This is in this guy's affidavit. In sworn testimony, November 4th, 20, under instruction and direction of U.S. persons working from the U.S. Embassy in Rome, this person has acknowledged he undertook the operation to switch data from the U.S. elections of November 3rd from significant margin of victory for Donald Trump to Joe Biden in a number of states where Joe Biden was losing the vote totals. And actually, the person announced it, told where he did it. The Pescara facility of Leonardo SpA, utilizing military-grade cyber warfare encryption capabilities to transmit switch votes from military satellite of Fucino Tower to Frankfurt, Germany. So, Maria, does President Trump have this information yet?
I can tell you I had the great pleasure of seeing him Christmas Eve, and as a devout Christian, I had this really neat realization that here was Christmas Eve. I saw him at dinner in Mar-a-Lago, and he said, "Merry Christmas." And I said, "Merry Christmas, Mr. President. This is going to be the best Christmas you've ever had and the best Christmas gift, because the whistleblower who actually switched the data for the vote counts across America is going to be providing an affidavit." And he swung around and looked at me, and I said, "Sir, if you'll allow me to give you a piece of paper." And my husband, Steve, was so kind to have the document ready, and I handed it to the president. And so I said, "I believe this may count as the best present ever." And then it also dawned on me, we had the 12 days of Christmas began. And so today we sit at Epiphany, yes, and this release came. It was not intentional to wait till Epiphany. We were trying quickly, but as I said, it's a very dangerous situation on the streets of Italy, and so we really wanted to be judicious in making sure that what we had was factual, that these people are telling the truth, and it's of grave concern that they have pointed to the embassy and the State Department, as well as a certain three-letter agency, which is shocking. And so yep, we have a lot of investigations that have to take place because of it, but we're very proud of their heroic nature and patriotism for America. And let's hope Americans step up and show the gratitude for them stepping up, because this was just an employee being told, "Hey, can you load this software and conduct this exercise?" It was not a malicious event by this employee. So he had discovered what took place and was very troubled.
So, Maria, your organization, Nations in Action, you did not withhold this information to wait to spring it on. I did think about today being the Epiphany. It's also my parents' wedding anniversary, but that aside, a wonderful day, but you did not withhold this information until today. You just released it as soon as you had it securely in hand. Is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am. We actually have been working for the past 7 weeks, day and night, just tirelessly, our whole team at Nations in Action and the Institute for Good Governance. And we tried to see people and get people to listen and understand what was going on and the actions we had to take place to help protect people, help get the information, conduct the proper research and investigations. And it was a mammoth effort, very costly effort. And, I was pulling from my savings, doing everything to help fund this effort because it was so important for our country. My 6th great grandfather penned the Declaration of Independence. I am not going to let down our country and lose this republic. And I can tell you that we knocked on doors galore and educated folks at all levels, at state and federal levels. And many people just didn't want to listen. And they were fearing Russia hoax, Russia collusion. It's just the whole mess that happens there. And it just shows the trauma that many people have been under for the past 4 years, the assault by the left to mess in your psyche, that you have to start doubting things even when people are saying, look, I just want you to look at the facts. Let me come in and see it. So I have not had the pleasure of having a face-to-face with the president. I am begging for a meeting with the president because it is honestly a life or death situation. We have things we need to do to accomplish because the evidence is actually leading us to a far bigger story. And I look forward to sharing that with you and your viewers as it all unfolds.
So, Maria, thank you for all of that. One reason I could imagine people you try to share the story with were a little bit reticent. You're so right about people having heard the Russia collusion hoax, other hoaxes that have been cooked up, I guess really by both sides, but it seems to me mostly by the left, but other hoaxes cooked up. It's almost like a too good to be true story. And I think that people would listen and think, well, this is, the idea we actually know how this happened. The entity that used their satellites to transmit these switched votes, or to use a common term, the switching of votes, use a satellite, send it back to America. And so what appears on our television screen is a calculation based on switch votes. That is just, it's a phenomenal, game-changing discovery. So if you were on the side of the people concerned, do you know of any so far of what you've uncovered, who you've talked to? Are there any concerns you have about the veracity of this story? Any concerns about the veracity of the people talking to you?
No, actually, I have so much more investigative research that is quite mind-blowing, and it needs attention. It needs immediate attention by the president, and we're very gravely concerned about any accusations that were made by this individual on U.S. interference in addition to foreign interference. We were told that MI6 was involved, and that should be investigated as well. And it's someone I've met in the past, as many people may recall, the Cambridge Analytica mess in 2016 and their involvement with Facebook. So that has actually speared a little piece out. So I not only feel 100% that this is accurate information, I think it is going to have a ricochet effect across many countries, and you will see Congress have to act. And I hope that people like Amy Klobuchar in the Senate will stand up for what she has said all along. I hear she's phenomenal and a very bright person. This is a moment, a clarion moment for her and her legacy as a politician. Is she a statesman that's willing to say, as a Democrat, this is egregious. We should never allow this to happen. It should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. We should throw everything we have at it, because this cannot be tolerated in America or any country, to have anybody actually thwart the will of the people.
That was one of my last points to say, is there ought to be people on both sides of the aisle, from very far left to moderate to wherever you put yourself. Everyone ought to be thinking, we can't have America go forward with, as a nation rooted in freedom, a self-governing nation, we the people being the sovereign, if we can't trust our election system. And so therefore, everyone should want the truth to come out. And it's probably going to involve people on both sides of the aisle, but whoever is involved, whoever was supportive of it, aware of it, orchestrating it, there's got to be this passion for truth that should really be on both sides of the aisle. Everyone should care very much. And I'm glad you mentioned a Democrat. I would think that Democrats and Republicans should have a higher goal than just my guy wins or your guy wins, but the American system itself has to win. The system of and integrity in our election system has to win. So if people want to follow you, follow what you're doing, help what you're doing, donate to it, I understand you need donations to help support the efforts of Nations in Action, where do they go to find all that?
Nationsinaction.org is our website, and there's a donate button and above all, a volunteer button. We are nonpartisan. We are about good government, transparency, lower taxes, and less government, and helping families thrive. And it's, you know, if we cannot have this basic foundation of transparency and good government and having free and fair elections, we will be no different than having dictators take over in third world countries. So this is a moment for our country to stand up. It is a revolutionary moment. And I believe you're going to see, and we are seeing right here in downtown DC, what's happening where Americans are awake, and it is not by party. They know if there is corruption in government, regardless of party, the people need to go down. And we're here to do that.
Maria Zak, this is just a great day for America, a great day to getting to the truth, getting a huge fact out there for everyone actually concerned about election fraud, a huge bit of information, more information on your website, more information in your press releases that are available on the website. I can't thank you enough, Nations in Action, Institute for Good Governance, everyone working for you. This is just it's a groundbreaking day for America, and I can't thank you enough for all you've done.
Well, thank you, Debbie, and we appreciate always having your support at Nations in Action and being a part of it. And we just love what we do, and we're here to help all of America thrive and foreign countries as well, because they should never have to run from their countries. So God bless you. God bless America. And I have no doubt we're in for a wild ride and certainly a great investigatory look at what really happened.
I most certainly hope so. Maria Zak, thank you so very much, and keep me informed of everything you're doing. And I appreciate you so much. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.